Hello and welcome. I'm Raghav, and today we are going to learn something very interesting, and that is how can we find objects on the web page? How can we find elements on the web page using Playwright? And then we will do action on those objects or elements. Now, this is very important in automation. Whenever we have to use automation, we first have to find these objects or elements. This can be anything like a text box, a button, a radio button, a drop down box, a title, an image. Anything on the web page that you see is an element or an object. And to do any action on these objects or elements, we first have to find or locate these objects. And for that, we use selectors and locators. And that is what we are going to learn today. So today we are going to see what are selectors and locators, how to find these objects with Playwright. We will see different selectors like XPath, CSS, text ID, how to use these and create locators. And then we will also see how you can automatically generate these locators using the Playwright Inspector. So this is going to be very easy and very interesting, and I will show you all the demo step by step from scratch. So let's get started and let us first see what are selectors and locators. And before we go into the definition and theoretical part, let me go and show you some practical. I'm on this Google homepage. So if you just go to google.com, you will see this Google homepage. Now here, anything that you see like this search box, this is an object or an element. We call it object or elements in automation and in general as well. This is this button is an object. This button is an object. All these links are objects. Now, let us say I have to give something or I have to add something, add a text here on this text box. So first I have to find a locator or find a selector and create a locator for this box. So what I'll do is I'll do a right click and say inspect. This will open the DOM or the backend of this page, and you can see here it has opened this document object model of this page, and here this area is highlighted. This corresponds to this search box. Now, if you see here, you will find there are a lot of properties. This is of type input. It has a class property. It has a name property, name equals Q, type equals text. So it has a lot of properties. And using these properties, we can create a locator for this object. So I will go here and I will press Control F or Command F if you are on Mac, and you will get this find box. Here I can create a selector, or I can give a XPath. I can give a selector or create a XPath, and I can try to find this box, this search box. So here, let us say I want to create a XPath. So I will give // and say input. That means I'm creating a relative XPath, and I want to find objects on this page that are of type input. Now, if you see here, as I say input, you can see it says here 1 of 9. That means it has found 9 objects on this page having the tag input or that of are of type input. And if you can see here, if you will keep on, if you click here, it will show you all these objects. Some of these are hidden, and it will show all these objects and highlight them. But we want this search box. So I will go further and give these brackets, square brackets, and I will say, I want to find an input object that has the name property equals Q, because we know there is a name property and its value is Q for our search box. And now you can see it is saying found 1 of 1. That is, it has found a unique object or a unique element using this XPath. And now you can see it is, if I see, it is highlighting the search box, and it is also highlighting the area of the search box on this DOM. So this is how we use automation to create locators and find objects. Now, today we have so many tools, so many automated tools and applications that can create these XPaths for us. And in Playwright as well, we have options. But before we go to the automated options, let me show you some of the ways. So selectors, in very basic words, simple words, selectors are strings or properties of these web objects. And using these selectors, we can create locators. So for example, the ID, the CSS property, all these are selectors, and using these we can create locators to find these objects. And all these CSS class, name, ID, text, XPath, all these are selectors. And using this, we can create locators. Now locators in Playwright, if I talk about Playwright, locator is a class. And here the syntax is we say page.locator and give any of these selectors and create a complete string. Do not worry, I will show you in a demo how exactly we use this. So just for information, locator is a class in Playwright library. Now let us see how can we create locators, how can we find objects with Playwright. So I will go to my project, the Playwright project here. And here I will say, I will go to the tests and I'll create a new file first. And I will call this as selectors. You can say selectors demo. I'll just say selectors.spec.js. And at the top, I will import test and expect from Playwright. And we have already seen this. We know how to create a test. So I'll create a test first here. I will say test and give the title. I'll say selectors demo and then create a async function. And then I will pass the page fixture in this function. So within curly brackets, I will say page and that's it. And now let me see what is the issue here. Okay, it should be async, a typo. All right, so I have created a test block and now we can write our code here. So what I'm going to do here is, let me show you the application I'm going to use. I will go to this sourcedemo.com and here we have a login page where we have a username, we have a password, and then we have a login button. So here I will try to find out the properties and create locators for all these objects, and then we will see how we can do actions on these objects. So the first thing is I have to go to this application. So I will say page.goto and I will give the URL of the application and I will add this keyword await. We have already learned about async await in the earlier sessions when we learned how to create test cases. So now after this, let me just run this and check if it is running fine. So I will open the terminal. You can open terminal from here or just press Ctrl J on your keyboard. It will open the terminal here. So we have got our terminal here. And here I will say npx playwright test. And then I want to run a specific test file. So I will say tests and selectors.spec.js. I'm pressing tab here to autocomplete. And let us say I just want to run on a single browser so that it is we don't waste time in running on multiple browsers. So I will say -- project Chromium. It will only run on Chrome browser. And also I want to see the execution. So I will say -- headed. And that's it. If I press Ctrl B, it will hide the Explorer. So this is the command. And now I will run this and check. So this should run this test on a Chrome browser in a headed mode. And it was very fast. So that is fine. Now what I can do is I can say await page.pause. Now when I use pause here, it will stop, it will pause there and it will open the Playwright Inspector window. And with that, we can do step-by-step execution. We can also see all our steps. We can see the application. So that will be very handy here. So let me just run it again and check. So I'm running the same command. I press the up arrow on my keyboard to bring up the earlier command on the terminal. And now I'm running and you can now see it has opened the application and open the browser and the application because we are using headed mode. And now it has gone to the Playwright Inspector. It has opened the Playwright Inspector window here. And here we can see our test and I can use this step over to go to the next step, or just click on this resume button to resume to the next steps and actually complete the entire test. So for now, this is working fine. I just wanted to check everything is working fine. So I'll just click this one and end the test. Now let us see the locators and selectors. So the first one is, we can use any property of the object that is available, that is present in the DOM, and then we can say page dot whatever action we want and give that property. For example, let us say I want to click on this username box here. So I will do a right click here and say inspect, and let me see the properties available here. So you can see here we have all this. We have class property, we have text property, and then a data test property and the ID property. So let us say I want to use this ID. So I will copy this ID equals user hyphen name, and then I will say await page dot click, and then in the brackets within quotes I will give this ID equals user hyphen name, and I can, if I want, I can remove this double quotes and just say ID equals user hyphen name, that is the value of ID, and all this within single quotes. Let me also add this comment: using any object property. Okay, let us see now. I will run the test again, and we will see in the Playwright Inspector. So it opens the browser and the application, and here is our Playwright Inspector. So I will go to the next step, and you can see as I'm going to the next step, it is highlighting the step that will get executed when I again press this step over button. And before even executing the step, it has found that this is the object, that is ID equals user hyphen name, which corresponds to this object, this element, and we have to click here. So I will again say step over, and you can see it has clicked here, and I will stop this. So this is working fine. Now generally in Playwright we use the locator class. So we say await page dot locator, and you can see here is a option locator. In case you do not get this auto suggestion box, you can press Ctrl plus space on your keyboard, and then here again I can say, I can give this ID and then say dot click. So I can give the same property, that is ID of the object, and say dot click, or here I can also say dot fill because I want to add something here. So I will say dot fill, and I will add something here. Let us say addition, and save, and I will run again. Let us see now. So this opens the browser, opens the application, goes to the URL, and here we have got the Playwright Inspector, and it has paused here. I will go next, next, and here again you can see this is the step it will execute next, and if I run it, it has added addition on the username box. So this is working fine, and this is how we can use any property. So whatever property you find available for the object, for example, even if I say data test equals username, this will also work. ID equals username will work. Name equals username, whatever is available for the property for the object, it will work here. So this can be a direct way. You can see whatever is a stable property and can directly use it in Playwright using directly like this, or the preferred way is using the locator like this. All right. So you can also directly say like this. You can give this all this in square brackets, or can directly say like this. Okay. So let me also show you. If I say, let me copy this, and I'm just going to copy this complete thing. And if you do that, you should put a square bracket like this, and then just copy this entire thing like this. And here I will say Einstein, and let us run and check again. So this opens the browser, goes to the URL, and here is our Playwright Inspector. It has paused and opened the Playwright Inspector. So I will go next, next, and here it has added Edison, and next it has added Einstein here. So this is working fine. I'll clear this terminal. All right. So this is how we can use any property. We can use all this, and we can do actions on the object. Now, we can also use CSS selector. So let's say the next thing is using CSS selector. So here, I will try to get the CSS selector of this login button and try to click on this login button. So I will do a right click and first say inspect. It will go to the backend and open the DOM, and it has highlighted this area which is for this login button. And now if I do a right click here, let me again say inspect, and now on this highlighted section that is for login button, I will do a right click and say copy, and say copy selector. This will copy the CSS selector, and if I just paste it here, so here this is the CSS selector of this login button, and here I can say await page.locator, and I can directly give the CSS selector within quotes here, and then I will do the action .click. So you can see here, this is how I can use the CSS selector, and I will save and run the test again. So here it opens the browser, goes to the application, and here is our Playwright Inspector. And I will say next, next, and next. Now you can also see one more thing here in the Playwright Inspector, that even before doing the action, it is highlighting the object because it has resolved this selector, this locator, and this is working fine. And before even running that step, it runs some inbuilt assertions. And this is all the Playwright features. It runs inbuilt assertions and checks that the object is there, it is visible, it is clickable if it is a click action. And you can also check here, if you see this explore section, it has highlighted the selector we are using. Also, if you scroll down and see these logs, so this is the action locator.click this button, and even before running this action, even before doing the action, it has executed all these things. It has waited for the selector, then it has resolved, and it has checked that this is visible, and it will attempt a click action and waiting for the element to be visible, enabled, and stable before doing the click action. And then it has checked element is visible, enabled, and stable, then scrolling into view if needed, and then done scrolling. So now our action is ready to be done. And this is what Playwright does at the back end. Normally when we run our test, we cannot see all this happening, but in this Playwright Inspector, we can see all these things which are happening at the back end, that Playwright is making sure that the object is there. If you are doing a click action, it is clickable, it is visible, it has scrolled to the position, all that it has resolved. So now I will go next, and it will click on the button. And of course, because we have not given the password, it is saying that password is required. So this is working fine. And one more thing with Playwright Inspector is, if you click on this explore button, this explore here, you can now highlight, go to your page and scroll and go anywhere, take your cursor or pointer anywhere. It will highlight the objects and also show you the locators, the best possible locators. And if I, let's say I go to this login button, and if I click, and if I again go and check the Playwright Inspector window, You can see it has given this locator. This is the best possible locator it has found. So if you want to automatically get the locators, you can use Playwright Inspector like this. So with that, this is working fine. I will run the entire test and it will stop. Let me clear the terminal. And next, we can also use XPath. In the initial example of Google homepage, I created a XPath, and the same way we can create XPath here as well. So for example, again, if I I'll say this is using XPath. And here, let us say I want to type something here on the password box. I will inspect, and it is of type input, and it has class, and it has type, it has name. So let me say, I will say I am pressing Control F on my keyboard or Command F on Mac, and then I have got this. Here I will say find an element of type input where name property equals password. And yes, it is able to find a unique match, and this is what I will use. So I can say here await page.locator. Now for XPath, I can use it two ways. I can use this XPath in two ways. I can either just say XPath equals to the XPath. I can say XPath equals to, this is what I'm using. And then I will do the action. I will say dot fill and whatever I want. Let us say Faraday. Or I can also use it in a way, await page.locator. And I can directly give the XPath. I can just give the XPath within the codes. So this is also another way I can use the XPath. And then I can again say dot fill, and I will say Ramanujan, and let us save and run and check again. I believe if we are doing pause, it will anyways open the Playwright Inspector. So let me try it without headed option. Let me see. So whenever we debug or whenever we record or whenever we pause, we get to see the Playwright Inspector. So no, it did not open the Playwright Inspector here because we were not in the headed mode. So I'll have to add the headed option. Let me add it and run again. Let us see now. Okay, we have got our Playwright Inspector, and this is all working fine. And yes, you can see using XPath, it is adding this password. Of course, we cannot see the password, but it is adding all this. So this is all working fine. Let me put this in the username. Let me see what is the properties for username. So I'll create a XPath for username. And here we have ID, user hyphen name. We have name also. Let me use this here. I will say, instead of password, I will say ID, user hyphen name, so that we can see this text on the screen. Here also I will say ID instead of name and say user hyphen name. So this time we should see this Faraday and Ramanujan added on the screen. Also this pause I will remove from here because I don't want to see all this. I will just add the pause here just before using the XPath selectors and locators. So I will again run, and let us see now. So it opens the browser, goes to the application, and yes, it has already executed all these steps, and now it has paused here. So now I will go to the next step, and you can see it has added this. It has added Faraday here, and then next I will go next again, and it has added Ramanujan here. So this is all working fine, and this is how we can use XPaths as well. Now you can also use the text property of the objects. So here I can say page.locator and I can give the text, whatever text is visible, and then I can do the actions. So for example, I will say here using text. So I will say await page.locator and I will say here text equals. So here you can see the text for this login button here. This is login. I will say text equals login and I will say dot click. Now you can use text like this, text equals login, or we can also say has text. So let me first run this and show you. I will clear and run the test. So this opens the browser and opens the Playwright Inspector window. And here, all this is fine. And you can see here next, it has already found that this button is already present, this object is present and clickable, and then it has done the click action. So you can do like this, or I can also say sometimes you have the text, but it can be a very complex text or dynamic. In that case, we can say has text. I can say page.locator, and then I will say has text, and I can use this colon here like this. So I will say has text, and then I will give the text here in brackets. So I will say login, and then I will do the click action here. So let's run and check. I will save the file and run it again. And let us see. This is our Playwright Inspector. So here, this is the step using text, and this is working fine. Now here is the step which is using has text login. And if you see here in the logs, in the details here, it is not able to find, or if I just go next, it is not able to find it. It is still retrying. It is retrying because in the config file we have retry equals 1. This is what we did in the last session. So let me just stop this. And it has also shown us that this has failed. And let us see the reason. I will go back. I will stop this. I will press Control C and terminate, clear. Let us have one more step after this. So I will again run this and check what exactly has happened here. So we have said here has text login. So I will again run it. Next step, and this is where it fails. Okay, there is some unexpected text. It is saying unexpected token. I think we have here we have said has text. This looks fine. We have said has text equals login here. Okay, we have not given the close double quotes. And I will show you what happens if we do not say input here. If we just say has text login, so it will search for everything that has login on the page. So let us run this again and check. Make sure that you save the file, the test file, and I will run it again and let us see now. So we have got our Playwright Inspector, and yes. So now you can see on coming to this step, even before executing, it is saying here, if you go to this section, it is saying, so you can see has text login has resolved to 10 elements, because it has found 10 elements on this page which have this text login, and it has also listed out all these 10 elements. So therefore, we cannot work on this object. It should always find a unique match, and therefore we can also add the type of the object that we are trying to find which has this text login. So therefore, I can say here, I will say input has text. So I will say here, find a type of object that is input which has this text login. So this is what I will try now. I will save and let me stop this. And I will clear and run the test again. And let us see this time. And we will go to the next step. And yes, so you can see now it is able to resolve it, and it is waiting for the element to be visible, enabled, stable, and it has checked everything, and now we can do action on this element, and now it is all fine. So this is how you can use the text property. Now we have seen how to find web objects, and these are some very basic locators. We have already seen how you can use Playwright Inspector to automatically create the locators. So as I have shown you, whenever you open Playwright Inspector, now you can open Playwright Inspector by adding this page.pause. So wherever you will have this pause and you run in a headed mode, it will pause here, open the Playwright window, and from there you can do step-by-step execution using Playwright Inspector window. Or if you run your test in a debug mode by using --debug. So if I say here --debug, in that case, you will also not need to add this headed option. The debug mode by default will open in a headed mode. This will also open the Playwright Inspector. Or if you are recording your test using the code gen tool that we have learned how to in the session, how to record your test, even then the Playwright window will get opened. So there are 3 ways you can open the Playwright window: when you are recording the test using code gen, when you are debugging using --debug option in your command, or whenever you add the page.pause option, page.pause command in your test. So we have already added this. So let me add this. Let me cut it from here, and I will add it just after going to the application. I will say page.pause, and if I run the test now, so it will open the Playwright Inspector window. Okay, I think I should have used await here. And now I will run it again. So this should open the application as we are doing in a headed mode, and also open the Playwright Inspector. And the Playwright Inspector, here it shows it has paused here, and now I can do step-by-step execution. Now here, whenever you open the Playwright window, you will see this explore. If you click here, it will highlight, and now you can find locators for the objects. You can take your pointer to anywhere, and you will see it is showing you the locators, the best possible locators, and you can click and it will copy the locator here in this explore section here in this field. And from here, you can just copy it and then use it in your scripts. And anyways, when you record using CodeGen utility, all the object locators will also get recorded. If I show you the script that we created using recording option using CodeGen, I'm pressing Ctrl B on my keyboard to show this Explorer window. And now if I go to the this test that we created using recording using CodeGen, you can see you will always get this locators created by default. So this is how you can also create the Playwright locators by recording. Now, what we have seen here in this session are very basic locators, and this is what you will be using most of the times. But just in case you have a very complex application or complex objects, you don't have very straight away properties or locators or selectors available, then you can do a combination of multiple locators or selectors. You can add CSS value along with text value, or you can say hash text. You can also use the position, the relative position, the location of the objects. Based on that also you can find the object. So there are so many other options you can use, and for that you can go to the selectors page or the locator class of Playwright. So let me show you. If you go and check Playwright selectors, and it will take you to the documentation selectors of Playwright, and here you can see, so you can see all these options. There are so many things you can use with selectors. You can do a combination. You can find based on the location or position of the element. You can combine multiple selectors. You can do union. You can also find shadow DOM objects, and this is how you can find these shadow DOM elements on the web page, and you can see the text. You can also find by position. So all this you can check here. And the other page that I will refer to you is the locators class of Playwright, and here it is. I will have all these links, everything in the description of this video, so you can check. So this is the locator class, and you can see all the functions, all the options which are there in this class. So you can always check this. If you have some complex objects and you want to see what is the best possible options you can do for finding that objects. So I hope this was very useful. If you have any questions, you can let me know. I will see you in the next session of Playwright. Thank you for watching, and never stop learning.